Hello guys, this is Olayeni Dieko Daniels, popularly known as Dieko Spectre, and welcome to another episode of Dieko Talks Law. On today's episode of Dieko Talks Law, we are going to be talking about land law, particularly ownership under land law. So basically, we'll be asking and answering the question, what exactly do we define as ownership? When a person rents an apartment, does the person own the apartment? Other questions we'll be asking is, when the person owns a land, does that mean that the person can do anything and whatever he likes on the land? Now, before I move into the answer of this question, if this is your first time of coming to my channel, then welcome to my channel. Please make sure that you click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell, so that anytime I release any video which is going to be of interest to you, you'll be one of the first set of people to watch that video. And if you are a law student, please make sure that you watch this video. So guys, I want to introduce you guys to the Yabore app, and basically the Yabore app has all notes and materials that you need from year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 as a law student. So yes, it has contract law notes, it has evidence law notes in year 5, it has land law notes in year 4, it has every single note that you need and materials, and also it has past questions. So basically all you have to do is to download the notes and the past question and then read them offline. So I want you guys to also download this app and give me feedback on your interaction with this app. You can always find my number in the description box below. Thank you very much. One thing I like about the app is the fact that there are past questions and there are notes on the app. Like, if I want to study, all I just need to do is go to the app and then I study, and then when I'm done with studying, I just go to the section that has the past question and then I try to answer those questions and make sure that I get myself abreast with how to answer and all that, and that's the end. Like, the app is just so mad. I don't need to have to go to the photocopy guy to look for past question and all that. They are all on the app. So I advise you guys, especially those in Unilag and other schools, to make sure that they download the app and study. Moving into what we are supposed to talk about today, which is ownership of land. Now, you have to know that when you're talking about ownership of land, that is a person owning a land. It means that the person has the totality of rights. What do I mean by totality of rights? When you're looking at the rights, because ownership is just a right, there are other rights that other people can own, relating to that particular land. So for example, when the landlord can be regarded as the owner of a land, but yet lease the land to someone else for 2 years for the person to stay. That is what we know as landlord and tenant. Do you understand? Now, in that particular case, can we say the tenant is the owner of the land? No, because whatever the tenant has is only a right of lease. Do you understand? Now, when you're talking about ownership, it is the totality or the bundle of rights that a person has over a land that is far and above every other person. The totality or bundle of rights that a person has over a land that is far and above every other person. That is what we regard to as ownership of land. Now, when you're talking about ownership of land in Nigeria, you see, we have to start from a particular case law that is very, very important. And that is the case of Abraham versus Olorunfumi. In that case, Nikitobi JCA, that is the Justice of the Court of Appeal, made a judgment. That judgment is very, very important when you are talking about ownership of land in relation to Nigerian land law. Do you understand? When you're talking about ownership of land, you know that one of the most important things we need to talk about is land. I've already made a video on that, on what is land. Do you understand? But here, when we have a land, what can we regard to as ownership? Now, according to that case, Abraham versus Olorunfumi, Justice Nikitobi said, and I quote, "Ownership connotes a complete and total right over property. The right of the property is not subject to the right of another person. Because he is the owner, he has full and final right of alienation or disposition of the property without seeking the consent of another party. Because as a matter of law and fact, there is no other person's right over the property that is higher than his. The owner of a property can use it for any purpose, material or immaterial, substantial or non-substantial, valuable or invaluable, beneficial or even for a purpose detrimental to his personal or proprietary rights. Insofar as the property is inherent in him, nobody can say anything. He is the Alpha and Omega of the property. The property begins and ends with him. Unless he transfers his ownership over the property to a third party, he remains the allodial owner. Now, this is what I refer to as the Alpha and Omega rule. You see, when you are talking about ownership of a land, as that when this case was still extant, it means that that person is the Alpha and the Omega on the land. It is only the person that can sell the land. No other person can sell the land. It is only the person that can do whatever he wants to do on the land, whether material or immaterial, whether substantial or not substantial, whether beneficial or even detrimental to the land, like to his own interest on the land. Whatever he wants to do, he can do. That is what I call the Alpha and Omega rule, according to the case of Abraham versus Olorunfumi. But do note that in modern times land law, that in Nigeria right now, we cannot apply this particular principle into what we have right now because of 4 reasons. 4 reasons. The first one is the fact that there are other lesser rights known as easements and restrictive covenants. Now, let me just give you an example. I don't want to go in depth into what it is, but let me just give you an example. So let us say we have house A here, house B here, and house C here. Now, for you to get to house C, you have to pass through some part of house A and then some part of house B to get through house C. If you cannot go through this place, there is no way you will get through house C. Now, there has to be something called right of way. Now, this right of way is like an easement for you to be able to pass through right C. Note that according to the definition of the Kitubi, that is in the case of Abraham versus Olorunfumi, he said that when you are regarding ownership means that you are the Alpha and Omega on your land, and you can say and unsay on your land. So which means if A says, I don't want anybody to pass my land and get to this place, then whatever A says is final. But in our present day land law, it cannot be final, because then you are going to make C's house redundant. So there are some rules. For example, easement and restrictive covenant. Example of easement is this way, right of way. There are some rules that will not be applicable when putting that definition in perspective. Therefore, that definition cannot stand. Another thing is the rule of Rylands and Fletcher. I am very sure that you have done law of tort. If you have passed law of tort, then you should know what Rylands and Fletcher is. That's the rule in Rylands and Fletcher. You just make it very brief. The rule says that if you are the owner of a land and you bring something into your land, that something is termed a non-natural user of land. If you bring it into your land and such thing escapes from your land to the other party's land, then if that thing then causes damages in that land, you are going to pay for that thing. So for example, let us say A decided to bring an anaconda. You know what an anaconda is? Very big snake. He decided to bring it and put it on his land. Then the snake escaped from the land and enters B's land and decided to either destroy the property or kill somebody. A will be liable for whatever happens to be. Do you understand? And all that. Now, when you're talking about land law, if something in your land that is fixed on your land escapes from your land and goes to the other party's land and then causes damage, you are going to pay. Do you understand? Therefore, the rule in Abraham versus Olorunfumi cannot apply. The third reason that the rule in Abraham versus Olorunfumi cannot apply is because now we have what is known as planning laws. So in every state, there are planning laws whereby the state governor already allocated this particular land to probably residential areas, and this other land to probably commercial and industrial areas. So imagine that, probably an industrial company wants to start up a company in a residential area where they probably will be emitting some things that can be dangerous to health. I don't think that the planning ministry is going to allow that, and we both can see that as unreasonable if they allow it. That's exactly another reason the rule in Abraham versus Olorunfumi as stated by Justice Nikitobi, cannot apply. Now, the fourth and final rule can be seen in the Land Use Act. Now, note that when this Abraham versus Olorunfunmi case was made, there was no law regulating land law in Nigeria. But now we have the Land Use Act that regulates land law in Nigeria. And note that according to the case of Abraham versus Olorunfunmi, it says that the owner of a land owns the land to the exclusion of every other person. But in this Land Use Act, whoever owns a land is not the sole owner of the land. All the land belongs to the state governor. But now the state governor gives us a 99 years permit to be able to possess lands. Do you understand? So what we have now is not like you are the owner of the land. You just have the right of occupancy over the land. That's like the C of O, that's certificate of occupancy. Whatever that gives you is known as the right of occupancy. Unlike, before the Land Use Act, that's what we had before the Land Use Act, according to the case of Abraham versus Olorunfunmi. Now, before we move further, you should also know how we got into that case of Abraham versus Olorunfunmi. Why did Justice Nikitobi say that when you own a land, you are like the Alpha and Omega on your land? We have to start from how we got to that particular point of law. Nigeria used to be a desert before people came and started filling up the lands. So you should know that as at the time people started coming to this part of the world, that is Nigeria and other parts of Africa, nobody used to live on the land. Do you understand? So when people started coming one by one and then they started settling on the land, those people that settled on the land turned in the land into a communal thing or a family thing. So according to Lord Adain, in the case of Amadou Tijani versus Secretary of Southern Nigeria, he said that what we know in the western region and some parts of Nigeria, what we practice the most is communal land, and as opposed to individual land. Although Professor Ayo Smith went against this particular view by saying, yes, some part of our lands, have communal lands. There are other parts that are also owned individually and all that. But the essence of all this is so that you can understand from where we are coming from. We came from people who decided to settle on land, and it was passed down from generation to generation till we are currently where we are. As at those times, there was nothing like town planning. As at those times, there was nothing like easement and all those. As at those times, there was nothing like the rule in Rylands and Fletcher. So you are supposed to know that modernity has made us, look at that law again, the Alpha and Omega rule as given by Abraham versus Olorunfunmi. Modernity is making us look at the law again and say, no, we can't define ownership to be that. Now, ownership is now defined according to the Land Use Act. Do you understand? And now, if you want to prove ownership of your land, there are 5 ways to prove that. And that is in the case of Idundu versus Okumagba. But that is what I'm going to discuss in subsequent videos. So I hope that you enjoyed this particular video. Make sure that you click the subscribe button and also the notification bell. Thank you very much. My name is Dieko Daniels.